unfortunate, especially since our two students have been training in ways and doing such good work for us. I understand
And Mr. Thank did a nice speech for everybody and included council and staff and everything.
So I'm going to move into the approval of the agenda and make the motion to get in the favor second by Councilor Hunter. Please resolve the agenda for the August 24th, 2020 be adopted. Any discussion, positions? Hearing none, so I'll call the first one in favor of the just to the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. I have a motion. Councilor Henry, seconded by Deputy Mayor Shaver. Be it resolved that council approve the minutes of the August 10, 2020 council meeting as distributed to all members. I'll ask members of the council are there any errors or omissions with regard to that report.
Your worship, one error.
Okay.
So under committee reports for operations, Deputy Shaver did not do an update.
Okay. Is there any other? I'll change, of course, the resolution to as amended. Okay, I'm going to call a question on that. All in favor of the motion? Okay, we'll move to the next. I approve the agenda. Ask if anybody has a disclosure of interest and provide the name thereof. Consensus that there is not, so I'm going to ask if anybody has any business arising from the minutes of the district. Okay, like that, we move to G delegations and presentations, and we do not have any. Can we do that?
Sure. We have a presentation.
We have a correspondence petition.
I'm sorry.
Yes. So then I see in H correspondence and petition, and we have a document in our package, a reference to limit request by Consolis and Alexander Scarlett. I'll read the motion as moved by Councilor Bowman, seconded by Councilor Chappell. Be it resolved that Council received the correspondence regarding a request to reduce the speed on County Road 2. Is there any, before I just ask for council members to comment, is there any more background on this at all? When I saw it under the heading correspondence and petitions, I was thinking I'm going to find a petition here. So is this just a single request for speed limit reduction in electric area? Okay, this council is for receiving it.
Came in from my end. I don't know why.
Action being proposed. So, any discussion or questions?
I have a comment.
Go ahead.
I'd like to know how long the residents have lived there. The reason I asked that, they've asked their neighbors and everything else, and I know recently that house was up for sale and sold in spring. So anyway, may make a difference, may not, but the new residents going into the area.
County Road don't have the done any speed surveys or all kind of the next lines to find out what the actual speed is through there. They didn't know, because I know I've had this conversation several times with they thinking people are speeding when they're not actually, when they do those signs, they're not active. So that might be an option we could go to because I noticed there's another sign up there.
Yeah.
Is it today? I think, which was new, so I don't know if that.
Does anybody else have any comment? Not the shop moment.
Nope, I'm all right with that.
The thing that I noticed with regard to it is that I just wanted to check base because I don't recall seeing a complaint that was speeding. I think the argument was that it's a big area, and it's approximate to Presque Island, which we're already reducing the speed limit. And I gotta tell you, it supports and repeats kind of the logic that I've been bringing to counties, in that all along County Road 208, they are permitted, building permits to be approved, and essentially, County Road 2 is effectively a built-up area. And there is a change of attitude in the population with regard to roads, in that they're not just for cars and trucks going here and there. They really are part and parcel of what residents want to consider as part of being able to walk along the road or take the children with a small bicycle or something. We know that, I'm aware, at least I'm hoping that it went through, that before Mr. Mukherjee, who was the public works manager at counties, before he left, there was an indication that he was going to be preparing a recommendation to council for criteria that would be used with regard to county roads when they're receiving requests for speed reductions. I'm going to be very much interested in that because it really is the horse before the cart, in that there were a number of councillors chomping at the bit to talk about what their feeling is about the use of the multi-use of roads as opposed to just a simple travel for commercial vehicles. But counties, seeing that he was retiring, thought they would take the opportunity to find committee and get his report. It'd be interesting to see if there's going to be a shift in point of view.
Might turn up.
Already declared, I'm very much of a mind to favor, especially in this area, which is considerably built up, and we're certainly an area
Send them the
actually
recording.
has a part of the shoulder that can be used for cyclists. So, at any rate, I think that we're receiving information. Mr. Morrison, I don't know internally by way of investigation into it, or whether you're just planning to refer it to counties. But I guess, like the deputy, I would like a little background information. And, I would be much more persuaded if I had an actual petition of people, because I would think that they would not have a great deal of difficulty finding like-minded individuals in the area. And it makes our job as a council and as members of the council is to be making decisions when we have a strong reflection and desire for the population. But at any rate, that's the right to put this in, and so all we have to do is ask motion to receive. Any further discussion? Call the question, all in favor of this motion? So motion is carried. And then moving to committee of the whole, it was moved by Councilor Chapel-Holman, seconded by Councilor Bowman. Be it resolved, the county resolve itself in the committee of the whole meeting. Any discussion? All in favor? Reports. I have nothing to report. United County in November. We're having a meeting with regard to the Lodge progress on that project. It comes to my mind that I recalled in my mind something I already did with the council. Also, the health unit has had a meeting in August, and so there's one coming up on September 17th, and we're sort of getting the same updates as Dr. Stewart is providing to the press. Very proactive in terms of letting people know. As active cases and what is generally going on, whether it's concerned with heat stress or many other health issues. So I will then go down through the list and ask each councillor, and I don't know that I'll use these titles because they're not effective anymore, but just the areas of interest. If anybody wants to throw in that, I think that's acceptable. Do you have anything that you would have to report?
I have nothing for the library or the recreation, and Nicole did a very good report, other than recreation work is in September, and the library is looking also at September, but other than that, no.
Okay. I'm going to move then to economic development, tourism.
We have our first meeting scheduled for September 8th. I believe it's
She
September
can't
8th.
hear you over there.
Yeah.
So, our next is operation, this opportunity to provide to our public works manager, Mr. Fink. We have, essentially shut down the operations review committee because we recognize that you're providing us with quality reports and give lots of opportunity for us to ask questions, and we can convey to you anything that we're hearing from the public. So, do you have anything to report that is not already in the report you want to add by way of supplement?
Just a couple of things about your work, if I may, and I appreciate the comments, and council, I appreciate your support with that, and hopefully we can continue to move forward. And please, as the mayor stated, reach out anytime. I think that you're one of these do, and I encourage that. Just a couple of these constructions completed with Cedar Grove, Macaulay, and the rain tried to get us, but it looks like we did really well. Well received by the residents. We have I believe I have the activity report just to confirm. We have 4 tenders out right now on North Augusta Main Street, which I think will be exciting to come to fruition. The truck tender's out, Kyle and Flippo Bridges is out, and the renovations for our shop is in the draft process right now. We finished line painting with, I'm sure a few councillors have heard, we rescinded the passing zones within the township. And so far, it's actually been well received and well supported. Obviously, we had a couple of residents bring opinions forward, and we tried to address them as we could. And thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Any questions for our public hearing? Again, we'll have an opportunity when we get the official report. In terms of PAC, there hasn't been meeting, and we have a considerable planning items on the agenda, so I think we just go Seeing none, I'll go Mr. Morrison. Do you have anything by way of the main finance that's not in a formal report that you would like to raise with us?
To your worship, just okay. No, just some activity coming through related to Lemon Point Lane and some other matters in the township, and handle that with the residents and MEC, and keep council informed. I think we're coming to a compromise agreement that everybody can accept there.
I do have a few questions on that since we brought it up. I was gonna try and bring it up. So I don't know if all council's been receiving I've gotten a few now, emails, Facebook posts, phone calls about Lemon Point. I just told them I need a little time. Can you explain to us why just so I have an understanding?
And I'll take it one step further. I'll ask Ray to go through the consensus agreement or the middle ground decision as to how to try and accommodate everybody's desires or wants and needs there. Because there are opposing views
And yeah, I don't know the whole,
compromise.
yeah, and I want to kind of
Maybe
just have the background and.
Or council may not have been brought in with a full picture from the staff side of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll bring that back. It started several years ago with the neighbors of the Lemon Point boat launch wanting us to control access and activities there because there were inappropriate activities occurring. At the same time, we had the floods that washed out the area and made it not suitable for launching anyways. So nature cooperated with us, been closed last year or two. We're still getting quite a few requests from other residents of the township to open it again for boat launching, in particular canoes,
Right.
kayaks,
Yes.
and that.
Yeah.
So we did meet with the neighbors and came up with a list of controls. And when we had the barricade up there, a lot of the inappropriate activities that they were bothered by ceased, just because people weren't driving down in there and partying. And so the barricade served that purpose for 95% of the cases. At the same time, we cleaned up the
Right.
area a bit, and as well Public Works has been in there and cut the woods back,
Right,
so
yeah.
it's quite an attractive place now.
Mhm.
So more would like to come. So we came and arranged a discussion with the Lemon Point residents to basically put the barricade back up of some form, with the understanding that the local residents who want to back down in and put a kayak in can and know it. So the proposed solution is basically a gate
Mhm.
that would be just latched, not locked, with a sign on it that says boat launch, feel free to use for these purposes. Other purposes not permitted, being things like campfires, camping, overnight stays, and that. We'll list it all out. So we've drafted that sign basically.
Mhm.
We'll put it back down there. In talking to some of the Maitland residents whose emails you would have seen, they're comfortable with that compromise. Previously talking with Lemon Point, there will still be some growing pain, and we'll deal with that as we go along. So that's my proposed solution today. Well, hopefully the sign will go up tomorrow or this week. The barricade is still up there, but it's just a wooden barricade that can be easily moved out of the way.
Okay,
So the primary resident from Maitland that I was speaking with is comfortable just doing that. So that's the way I propose we do on the short term, and on the longer term, Brad and Public Works are just investigating an optimal gate solution, and we might use them in a couple other places in the township where we want to restrict access but still make it accessible when we need to get in.
so with the gates being there, will they be locked?
Not initially, they'll be latched.
Just latched, so if
Yeah.
someone comes there and wants to use it, they can just unlatch and go in and,
If I can just add my perspective, because I was brought in the conversation by the residents, is that a little bit of concern was expressed that the signage up there at the time was more or less come and use this for whatever you want. A very inviting sign, and then when the barricades went down because our COVID responsibilities were gone, then some misuse started happening. That, you know, there's always a small percentage of people that will see something and go, okay, it's gone showtime. So we would say to them, well, if there's something coming up, call the police. That's what
and are there
we
police
do.
reports then?
I don't know that I didn't see the reports, but the police were called and they did go. What the neighbors complained about though is that the police had no indication of what the township had. So without having a sign like no overnight parking or no, you know, whatever it is, or put it in a positive way, no signage saying what the township intended use for it was, they found that they couldn't respond to complaints very well because there was that sign basically saying, come enjoy yourself.
So at that time, that's kind of though what the understanding was. So if they're calling the police because of, you know, rowdy behavior or drugs or drinking and all that, so.
On their property and,
Yeah.
you know, just, again, the smaller number. And so the compromise that I understood was we were going to change the signage.
Right.
And in terms of the barricade, try that. We want to get the balance of those who have legitimate need to get down there with kayaks. There was a fellow
Mhm.
that from Maitland who had said that I can't walk my kayak in. And so we had proposed that at some point in time we may consider a permit system. Where you get a permit to have a key for the gate, and if you use a permit, you lose it as long as you're using.
And that would be open to
Then-
all residents of the township.
Yeah, so if you've got a permit and if you're behaving and you're doing good things, then it all works. So I think we're going to try a slightly different view on signage, just to make it clear that it isn't just whatever you think should go on.
Yeah.
And then try the barricade and then go to a more permanent one if we can't get it. Is that, am I missed anything or am I slipped off of what?
No, I think that covers it, and the staging. We would go originally with a gate, with a latch that is lockable, but not have a lock on it.
Right.
For places like EDR bypassers, we want to shut something down for a short period of time.
Mhm.
That works a number. It should work here for 98% of the time. What the neighbors want is, if they don't want to call the police and have the police come and say, I don't have anything to work with. So ask that, put a not permitted, a list of not permitted activities, so the police could go over and say right here on the sign, you're not permitted to act this way, please leave. So education first, the physical barricade just to discourage people, keep them on the road, and third, if it is totally inappropriate, they'll call the police. So
Fair enough.
it should work well, and we'll trial it and see.
Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Mr. Marshall.
Yeah.
Is there anything else?
I think the clerk did.
Okay.
Just so council's aware, the Recorder and Times offered us another full page ad free of charge for the businesses. It'll just be a repeat of the other businesses that were in the previous weeks, but they did offer us that little treat, I guess. So that'll be in for the long weekend. She said a little more readership perhaps, so reach or whatever. And a little bit of good news there was 2 grant programs for students this summer, and I always apply for both, and I usually don't get one because it's not very many spots, but I just got a call a couple of days ago and said there's money left over, so we did get that grant after all, so we got an extra $3,658 for a student. So, and I was able to use it pro-rated, I guess, if that's for the 6 weeks. Just the day left to 6 weeks ahead. So, and I know I sent around a few emails about the library plaque. So does anybody have a preference? He thinks it could be ready for the 29th, which is this coming up Saturday. You know, Murphy's Law being what it is. I would think maybe to wait to the following Saturday, even though their anniversary was technically August 26th. But that's also a long weekend. So if I talk to the library and find out does council have a preference for the presentation of the plaque, or even, does it have to be a Saturday? You want to do it during the week, or?
I know I've got a limitation. So you're saying September, Saturday in September?
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be a Saturday. I don't really know if there's more bang for the buck then, but
I know it's good on
the 3rd,
the Saturday.
isn't it?
Thursday.
No, the Saturday is September 1st.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
That's good.
During the week, so.
I can't make any commitments. I really don't know ahead that far, but if I'm available, I'll be there. Is that?
If it is on the weekend, I'm gonna have to ask the deputy just to inform me if I'm planning to leave for the weekend. Anyway, how are you gonna let us know when?
I'll talk to the library tomorrow.
Okay, and we can make sure something. Okay. Go to the party development.
Your Worship, I don't have any commission report tonight, but I do have just a couple things to bring up here, just to let council know that due to COVID, we've all had to make a lot of changes, and we're looking ahead. A couple things we're looking ahead at is we know there's probably zero chance that we're going to be able to have an awards banquet this year. So we're looking at different ways in how we can give out the awards and have a little bit of appreciation for our firefighters. So stay tuned. I'll try to keep council up to date on what the officers are thinking, what our thoughts are, and a way to show some appreciation for them without being able to get 120 people together. So the other thing was with Labor Day being canceled, the fire department felt strongly that we still wanted to try to help muscular dystrophy. Because all charities are hurting now with COVID, so we've got some, some stops, through the township where we'll stop some vehicles, taking out COVID precautions and stuff like that. It's still being worked out, but we're talking about that. So those are the 2 big changes or things we're thinking about with COVID. The other item that's just come to light today, I'm not sure whether the council's aware, but there's now 5 active cases in Leeds and Grenville, all 5 are in Grenville County. So when we were at our height of COVID, many fire chiefs, police chiefs, paramedics all made a pitch to the Ontario government to have access to what's called the COVID database list of patients that have COVID. It's tightly kept under wraps. No one else can see it other than police, fire, rescue, and for the right purposes. So my understanding, well, today I thought I'm going to call our dispatch because we have 5 cases in Grenville County that I wanted to make sure that we're still able to do that. Now, that being said, I want to assure council we're always fully, PPE'd up, gowns, masks, goggles, gloves, the whole bit. We treat every medical call the same way. However, it's always, if we know that they have tested positive, it makes us take that extra moment just to make sure we're going. And unfortunately, I just got a call just before council started that it appears, and I'm going to follow up tomorrow, it appears we do not have access anymore. So if that's so, it might have been because a lot of the emergency orders made by the government were rescinded, I think in the 3rd week of July. And I'm wondering whether that was one of the ones that was rescinded. So if so, I will be contacting Steve Clark's office and follow up to say that the access should be given back, right? As long as it's being used properly and people's privacy is being kept.
I will be having a routine call with Dr. Swift. So on the basis to see what she knows. Okay. Any questions if anybody has? Any comments? I know that with the boot collection, we've done it every year, so people are not going to be shocked to see it. And then with
And you can advertise like at the signs for it, right? Can you do that?
Well,
That you'd be doing it at a certain time?
yeah, 3 worship, we're thinking about doing it Labor Day morning, but we're leaving it up to the guys, whatever works best for them. And, we'll be at certain intersections for the municipality, we'll advertise and have signs. And the good thing is that it's not a crowd generating thing, it's they pull up and wear masks and stuff like that. So yeah, we advertise on Facebook.
We can share that around, and like you said, then people are aware, because sometimes, like I said, if my kids have been in my vehicle even during COVID, I have no cash, like, they're like, damn, you know what I mean? So maybe a little bit more, and that helps people to be ready, and that's perfect.
Okay, we have the Citizens Board again, the report on that.
No, we haven't met since last meeting.
We have a standard item, COVID-19.
Nothing additional to add there.
Okay. Right then, that takes us to the formal reports on the Administration of Finance. We have report 2020-003, which is the Integrity Commission report. The motion reads moved by Councilor Holman, seconded by Councilor Henry. Be it resolved that Council received the Integrity Commission report dated August 10, 2020 regarding the code of conduct complaint. I'm just going to turn the floor over to the clerk. And you read it.
No, we just received a code of conduct complaint. It's from Mary Peterson. It's in the report. It's and it was forwarded to our integrity commissioner as we should under the requirements. And he took a little bit of time to get it all straightened out, but sent his report to us, and there was no comments on to do anything, so it's just received for information. And it'll be put on our website.
In my discussion with the clerk, my discussion, it struck me when we saw it, is that I probably should advise council. Mines before. So it's something that they will be careful on.
Yeah, I'll forward an email. I'm sorry, please don't turn I'll just speak a little louder. Yeah, just called a couple of people, and I'll just send an email out saying that there was a complaint received, but I won't say against whom or what the complaint was, it's just that you know that there was one. It's still a question of a little bit of privacy, I think. Then, once the report comes out, it's basically free for all.
Councilor Chapman, any questions, comments?
Yes, so in these cases, so I've read it, and the analysis, like you said, it came that the Integrity Commissioner concluded his investigation, and there was no contravention of the code of conduct for our township. So now these costs, can they not be put on the person who made the complaint? Why not?
That's just, it's part of the transparency,
And I know we talked,
accountability.
and I know we talked about that, but I thought it was something that I remember when this all came and we had our Integrity Commissioner come, he's come, I think twice now maybe, and we spoke, I remember asking, in these cases when people are making these complaints and they get the full investigation, if it is concluded that whatever the complaint was done and was on the behalf of a council member or the township, then absolutely yes, the costs were covered. But when people are making these kinds of complaints and there is no merit to it, in the end, he did his full investigation without anyone being involved.
But we won't know that until he does his investigation. Sorry, I'm going to yell again.
Yeah.
So we can't really say you might get charged. It's just not how the transparency and accountability. It's just another tool that the citizens can use for accountability and transparency of a council. The CAO has the right to look at the complaint and decide up front if he believes it to be frivolous, then we won't go, we can say we're not going that route.
Right, and you don't want to do that too often either, because
Yeah.
you want to, if that's what they want, I get that. I'm just wondering, so in the case where, just throwing it out, if the same complaints are being made, or different complaints, but same individuals are doing it, do we then start, even though they could be legit, but it's happening more and more and trying to find ways. I'm just wondering how we're protecting all of our residents from costs that could be coming, not necessarily this one, but another one or another one. Or is there a way for us to protect ourselves against that for residents not covering these costs?
Yeah, I'm not sure of exactly the word, but it's the same under MFIPA.
Right.
If a person's doing a complaint over
Freedom of
and over and
information.
over
Yep.
again, it comes to a point where we can say, okay, well, no, this is you're abusing the system, and we might have to, they might rule against us, but
Right.
we have that, there's a possibility, but
Yeah.
for the most part, I mean, this is our first one.
Right.
It's our only one in how many years, I don't, so.
Since I've been here. Yeah.
And it's the same, the ombudsman, we don't hire an ombudsman,
Right.
we use the provincial ombudsman, but if we hired our own ombudsman, it would be the same thing. If somebody said we went into closed, and we weren't supposed to, and they wanted an investigation, we
Right.
would still put that cost. It would be our cost for an investigation. It's just how it is.
Just as a supplementary question to Chapel Home, do we know what the bill for this report's gonna be?
Yeah.
All right, if there isn't any further discussion, I have a motion to receive the report. I'm going to call the question on favor. We're then on to report 086, recreation report. So it's moved by Councilor Henry, seconded by Deputy Mayor Shaver. Be it resolved that council receive the recreation, I'm going to raise the voice for them. The recreation activity report is prepared by the Community Development and Recreation Coordinator dated August 24, 2024 information. Does anybody have any questions or comments with regard to that report?
Your worship, again, a really good report.
Yeah, very comprehensive, isn't it? Anyone else? Okay, call a question on that, receiving it for information, all in favor? Carried. Then move to 2020-088, accounts payable. Have a motion from Deputy Mayor Shaver, seconded by Councilor Henry. Be it resolved, the council receive, review, and approve the payment of the accounts payable invoices paid on checks 25,568 through to 25,612 and online payments due to August 20th, 2020 in the amount of $162,925.24. Does anybody have any questions or comments that they raise? Usually there's not. We ask that these comments be made beforehand, but nevertheless, we still provide the opportunity during council meeting, and so I'll call the question. All in favor of this motion? Carried. We move to report 2020-090, which is Prairie Road. So the motion moved by Councilor Henry, seconded by Deputy Mayor Shaver, to resolve the council accepts the information be attached to the preliminary statement of revenue and expenditures. Am I reading the right one?
Sorry, which, you're on finance and variance right now, resolution 8?
That's what.
089, yeah.
I knew something was wrong with the wording, didn't match the So finance and variance. So the motion, I'll just read it again, be resolved council accept the information, the attached preliminary statement of revenue and expenditures July 2020. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Motion? Do you have anything that you wanted to mention to council or the report stand?
I believe the report stands on its own. It's an interesting year with different new revenues and expenses in COVID, but we've addressed that. The new funding in the COVID was immediately put into a reserve, will be drawn out based on eligible related expenses at year end. So we're tracking those. So that makes interesting cash management dynamics, but a benefit to our budgeted bottom line. Similarly with the modernization funding, we are now asking council and spending some of that fund on appropriate, what we recommend are appropriate expenditures. No other large unusual variances that I think need to be brought to your attention.
Okay. With that then, again, this report is for information, so I'll call the question. All in favor of the motion? This one is Road. Finally, the 9, and it was made by Deputy Mayor Shaver, seconded by Councilor Henry. Please resolve the council revise the directions of staff. Staff provided February 10th, 2020 from to sever the southerly section and sell the severed portion only to the South Nation Conservation Authority for a nominal amount of $1 with an irrevocable option to purchase back as per Schedule 3 attached. And 2 to sever the southerly section and sell part of the severed portion for the South Nation Conservation Authority to the South Nation Authority for a minimum amount of $1 with an irrevocable option to purchase as per Schedule B attached and to sell part 2 of the severed portion to Gary and Deborah Finlay for a nominal amount of $1. All related legal and processing costs of the sale of part 2 to be assumed by Gary and Deborah Finlay. I kind of pictured it up with the words there, but there's a lot.
There's a few words missing though, so I'm not going to fully blame you. You do realize, so you have Gary and Debbie's name should be there, it's not. And then you have by the Gary and Finley, but it's.
That's agreed. It should read Debbie in both cases.
Okay, just, so it wasn't,
Yeah.
I can't blame just you fully. There was a few, I noticed those two when I was reading it, so.
Vicky did point it out, but I forgot.
At any rate, is there any discussion on this?
No.
So we've come to a reasonable compromise that leaves everybody in a win-win. The way you characterize that, sounds like it.
Yes, they're comfortable with
They're happy with
that
it.
section. It protects their interest, they think, and they're willing to absorb their own legal costs
Right,
of
fair enough.
verbiage.
Yeah.
Okay, as long as that's, yeah, I'm happy.
Okay, that, so the motion reads, that staff revise the direction to staff provided by the town. So I'll call the question on favor of the motion. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. We're on to report 2020-091, upgrades, IT upgrades. And it is, I have a motion moved by Councillor Bowman, seconded by Deputy Mayor Shaver. Be it resolved that the council authorize the CAO treasurer to enter into an agreement with Block IT to supply and install a new server and operating system at an upset cost of $20,000, and the council set aside the procurement policy to waive the tendering process. Questions and comments from the council?
We're setting sorry,
Go ahead. Yes.
setting aside the procurement policy and waiving the tendering process.
Through your worship, because Brock IT has essentially accomplished the tendering process on our behalf. So they went out and contacted the big suppliers, HP and Lenovo, which is essentially IBM, and Microsoft, and put the package all together. So all the benefits that we would receive by going to tender have been achieved.
Okay, good.
And by a third party, essentially on our behalf. So that's why I would suggest setting it aside. It will save 6 weeks of time of going to tender and evaluation. I have lots of faith that the number is reasonable after having talked about similar migrations with Prescott and Rideau Lakes and some of the other vendors. Was asked in one of the cases, last council meeting, we approved a new filing system, and that system, hardware to run that system by itself was about 50% of the cost of this. So I think we'd be better off upgrading our central server that would more than accommodate the filing system, more than accommodate this new GIS system, which are very data intensive compared to what we have.
So one other question, HPE at the bottom with the agents, with the HST included, is that supposed to just be HP? Or what does E stand for?
Enterprise.
Oh.
So at home you would have a home computer, an HP laptop, or an HP
and I have a Lenovo
something.
Too. Yeah. Okay.
So it's an HP enterprise, so commercial business quality.
Okay,
is what that word, that's what the
HP
E
is just all I ever hear. I got you. Okay, it's the same. I got you. Thank you.
Right, anyone else? Good question, and I appreciate the fact that you have gone up to check the municipality. The reason it comes up most of the time for sole sourcing is expediency, usually with good reason. But I always remind council that we've got to be careful the number of times we'll go sole sourcing, because there is risk in terms of transparency and confidence of the public that we're trying to.
Yeah, and that's why I asked, but I think this one I understand a little bit. You're getting at, this is a little bit more where you kind of want the expertise of that company that you're using for that type of, I understand.
So I'm glad you questioned.
Yeah.
So again, this is for authorization. I'll call the question on favor of the motion. The motion's carried. That brings us to report 2020-087, reallocate funds for patching. And it is moved by Councilor Henry, seconded by Deputy Mayor Shaver. The motion reads, be it resolved that council approve the reallocation of budgeted funds for crack sealing of municipal road patching operations in the amount of $50,000. The report is complete. Do you want to add anything on that I saw?
Through your worship, I'll start, add a little bit, and then Brad can add to it. But essentially, repairs to that road were previously included in the asset management plan. We've reassessed that not as extensive as was included as required. Patching will save us 5 to 6 years at a substantial cost savings, and we'll just funds will stay in the reserve for other asset management planning expenditures.
Right?
Your worship, just to reiterate to the CAO, I talked to council, I believe it was this spring, early spring, actually February, might have been actually late winter, about Weir Road, for example, was on the road need study to be reconstructed approximately 3 years ago. I made council aware from my professional opinion, 80% of that pavement is in good shape, and I think some rehabilitation with patching will extend the life of that, thus save the township and prolong the repairs to that road. So the county, amongst other things, did not go through with their crack sealing this year. I think it's a great opportunity for us to hop on the Weir Road this year compared to next year.
Thanks, any member of council, any questions? The only thing that comes to my mind is that, I believe that, the Cardinal repaved their portion. Was it a repave, down on the Weir Road?
From the Cardinal and Mayor, yes.
Yeah. So what's the likely reaction of our residents that we're not getting the bigger job done?
So great question, Your Worship. So I think if I can urge council to utilize their public works manager's opinion that there's a great cost initiative savings moving forward, where we want to extend the life of our assets, including that, with minimal investment, which this is a prime example of that.
Well, that's great to hear. I appreciate the fact that we have someone that takes initiative and makes recommendations to us. As I said, we may get a little bit of feedback because people have approached me and said, if the Cardinal paved their road, when are we going to do ours? But I think in the bottom line for everybody is that you have a road that provides.
Well, and as long as, like you said, as long as it's, first of all, I think we always look at the roads as being, are they safe?
Mhm.
Are they able to be traveled? Are they able to do those main things? And if they are, I agree with what he's saying. If the road needs a little bit of patching, do that instead of tear it all up and, you know what I mean? So I think most residents, it's disappointing sometimes, but understanding that if it doesn't need to be done for any real reason,
Yeah.
we're gonna save the money where we can, because there are other roads, I'm sure, that.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say residents are always looking for us to save money, and roads expenditure on other roads is always big, so.
Yep.
I read the report very positive. If there's not any further questions,
Mayor, council, I'll urge you to throw Cedar Grove back as your county constituents over in Eversburg.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's all.
all right.
Fair enough.
We'll go for it.
Mm-hmm. No, good.
All right, members of council, I'm gonna call the question, all in favor of the motion? Motion carried.
Thank you.
It says you have enough time before, cold weather comes in, what's sort of the back end of it, that better have it done by?
Are you gonna start tomorrow?
Sort of the passion,
Yes.
if I could, I suspect, third week in September, we should be, going into October, we'd like to have it completed, if not, just very least beginning of October. We start to get cold. The material we're gonna use is a nice, it's like a liquid asphalt, it's the only way you can describe it, and you just lay it out on the patches that have been marked out.
Great. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you. We're going to go to planning and building services. We have report 2020-084, CBO report. I have a motion from Deputy Mayor Shaver, seconded by Councilor Henry, be it resolved that council receive the building department activity report for July 2020 for information. Anybody on council have any questions to Mr. Morrison?
Can I ask one question? When it says pool, and it's not a big, but I don't understand, it says AG pool, IG pool. What is, do you know those abbreviations, what they mean?
Above ground.
In ground and, yeah.
Is that what they are? Above ground, in ground. Okay, very simple. Thank you.
Anyone else? Do you have anything to add, Mr. Morrison?
I didn't, but our planner is online. We could ask him if he wanted to speak to it.
All right.
The CBO? Sorry, I
No,
got the wrong report.
He's next.
I don't
So
know.
why is anyone talking about here?
Sorry, I jumped the gun. No, I think it's quite comprehensive, stands by itself.
All right.
I would just say a well-written and excellent report.
Thank you.
Karen did a great job this week.
Yes, we did. Thank you. All right, I'm gonna call the question. All in favor of the motion? Okay, thank you. That moves us then to the planner's report, and we've got two versions of this. I'll use the first one, which looks at receiving it for action. So the motion is moved by Councillor Henry, seconded by Deputy Mayor Shaver. Motion reads, be it resolved that the planner's report of August 24, 2020 to receive for action in accordance with the individual resolution. So this is just a general agreement to receive the reports. Is there any discussion? Okay, so I'll call this question and we'll go to the individual pieces. All in favor of the motion? Carried. Gives me the time, the chair gets to do a long meeting. So we have, this is resolution 13A. It is moved by Deputy Mayor Shaver, seconded by Councillor Henry. The motion reads, be it resolved that the following conditions provided by the United Counties of Leasing Vendor be appended to the decision on the site plan control application of 2535727 Ontario Inc. /Show Trucking, previously approved by Council of the Corporation of Township of Augusta on August 10, 2020. That the grading and drainage plan be amended to include a statement which clearly indicates the quantity of water being discharged into road allowance during normal flows, and further notes that county culverts will be negatively impacted based on accepted design standards. That provision of road widening be undertaken prior to the site plan agreement as per section 6.2.2 B of the United Counties of Leasing Vendor official plan. The road allowance should be 22.6 meters. Should sufficient allowance exist, a letter from a survey would meet the county's need. Should the allowance not meet the minimum desired right of way, an appropriate dedication is requested, one half of the desired allowance width measured from the center line of the current road. Three, given a proposed fencing along the property line, a sight line analysis is required to be conducted to ensure minimum sight lines are met as per GAC guidelines. Fourth, given an increased truck traffic, the entrance should be evaluated to ensure that it is wide enough to provide space for trucks to pass and is required to be paved for a distance of at least one entire truck length from the intersection with the road to prevent increased granular materials from entering onto the road. And that applicant is notified accordingly. A lot to take in. If anybody wish me to go to the planners or any comments in there, or you want to jump in the discussion right away? Question that pops off my mind that everybody is thinking is that the applicant be notified accordingly. Does the applicant have any idea that this is coming?
Through the chair, yes, I had notified the applicant that the comments were received after the August 10th council meeting. When I had sent out the initial circulation to the reviewing agencies, I had requested comments by August 3rd. Subsequently, we had the meeting August 10th, received the comments after that. Prior to me sending the applicants a formal notice of decision, I had indicated to the applicants that that their site plan control application had been approved at the August 10th meeting, and that a formal notice of decision, including conditions, would be forthcoming. The comments arrived, and I communicated to the applicants that we had received the comments. Here's what the comments were. I had indicated that I wanted to bring those to council, and had asked if they would have any concerns or comments with me bringing those to council. They did not indicate that they had any particular comments or any particular concerns with them. I think the United Counties Public Works Manager is retiring, and I think that process may be impacting response times at the moment. But we, as the township has not formally sent a notice of decision yet, we can still send it tomorrow and be within our 15-day limit.
The only question that came to my mind on top of that one then is, what feedback did we get from the concerns about the time frame? What struck me is that it's almost a double process. And why can't we get this process expedited so that everything is known right from the get-go, as opposed to going through this process and getting a decision and then a motion to the council saying, well, the county's going to keep more things added, just adds time, and I'm sure frustration. And I guess what's deep in that question, the underlying part of the question is there anything we can do to alleviate that? And I guess I don't need an answer right away. It's a matter of something that can be considered and come back to council at any time with suggestions of how we can move along in the applications for things, get them processed quickly, because as you're aware, that's something that is consistent with our priority given to Ed. All developers, investors want to see us reacting as quickly and getting the answers as quickly as possible, and not have too many doors to be going in.
Well, then just like he said, when he had the deadline and nothing was received by then, it did come to us, it's already been approved, and then to receive that stuff after, it's wasting. And I understand there's sometimes different things, but the process is process, that's wasting our time, the staff's time, the applicant's time. I fully agree that it's not fair. It shouldn't, if there's a deadline and everything was given up until then, unless something changed for whatever reason, I get that, but all the information was given. Do we have to follow? But if it comes in after, what's the normal vote?
Yeah. I think unless council wants to press the issue right now, just notice the staff will be looking for any comment or suggestions of things that we may do to try and speed things along. And if it means lobbying the council to the counties, then so be it. Okay, on this particular one, then we're going to call a question on the motion. We then move to resolution 13B, moved by Councillor Henry, seconded by Deputy Mayor Shaver. The motion reads, be it resolved that the Augusta Council recommend to the Land Division Committee a leasing vendor with consent application B69-20 be approved subject to the following conditions. The balance of any outstanding taxes, including penalties and interest, and any local improvement charges applicable shall be paid to Augusta Township. 2, an acceptable reference plan or legal description of the severed lands, and the deed or instrument conveying the severed lands shall be submitted to Augusta Township. 3, that the applicant submits 2% cash in lieu of parkland to the township. 4, that the proponent obtains site plan control approval for the development proposed. 5, that favorable comments are received from circulated commenting agencies. Does anybody want Mr. Moulton, you or call on staff to comment on this project before I open it to council?
Then I will defer to Myron and answer any other questions that might come up.
Just really thumbnail sketch then. What's this about and what we're looking at.
Did you hear the question, Myron? Can you hear?
Was the question from the Ray, from the mayor, just to give a little bit of an overview of what the application is about and why they want to pursue it?
Yeah, if you can.
Sure. Yeah. So through your worship, this is a 25.9 acre parcel in roughly the middle of the industrial park. That's kind of a triangular shaped or an L-shaped piece of property that is split by a road or a road right of way, and the seller of the property has 2 interested parties. One would like to buy essentially the parcel on one side of the road right away, and one would like to buy the parcel on the other road right away to develop two separate companies, two separate operations. As part of the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville's government's process, they do their own review. They circulate it to us as the municipal representative. They will also be circulating to the health unit and to the respective conservation authority. This seems pretty straightforward. I know on the ACDEF side of things, we get a number of inquiries from parties that are looking for property. I mean, some certainly are looking for larger properties, but there are many companies in that small to medium enterprise realm that if they're going to have, let's say, 5, 10, 15, 20 employees, they don't necessarily need 100 acres of land. They may be looking for 1 or 2 or 5 or 10 acres of land, and I think that's the case that we're dealing with here. 2 companies for the industrial park that will create some jobs, but they don't require a 26-acre parcel. So this is essentially just a request to split it into 2 pieces, and from a planning perspective, seems like a pretty straightforward request.
Okay, thank you so much. Essentially, to my counsel here and to my word, part of that report identifies the fact that staff did not feel that this is an item that should be reviewed before the unfortunately committee. And so I said that I said to you that anytime motions come before us with those that kind of provision, there's an opportunity, and I'm sure there's an opportunity, for council to comment on that, wherever it takes us. So, are we okay with that as a first step? Fine with these questions. Okay, I'm seeing consensus, at least satisfactory. And as I said, I'll be careful to review that with each and every time. Okay, so we have this motion and we've discussed it, so I'm going to call a question. All in favor of this motion? Motion's carried. We're on to 13C. This motion is moved by Councillor Bowman, seconded by Councillor Chapel-Holman. The motion reads, be it resolved that Augusta Council support South Grenville approach to the digital service squad in order to maximize service to small businesses, and that the administration be directed to prepare a letter of support to the digital Main Street program, stating our willingness to partner with the town of Prescott and the Township of Augusta in the grant program. For the council, do you need any further discussion on this one in terms of supplement to the report, or is it straightforward enough if you just straight consideration? I have one small question, if no one does, anyone else does, okay, my question then is that the report offers 2 options. One is partnering up with the county, the other is partnering with South Grenville. And as much as partnering with South Grenville is my usual preference, I just want to make certain in my mind that we have some kind of an indication from the 3 South Grenville partners that they're on board. And I believe in the report that's been confirmed for Prescott, because they're actually going to take the lead in the application. But are we satisfied that Edward Cardinal is in? Because I just don't want to get down the line and find that we don't have that partnership we thought we had. Thank you. Go ahead.
Through the chair, yeah, we've had conversations with the economic development officer from Prescott and community development coordinator from Edwardsburg Cardinal, and the understanding is that that both of their municipalities are on board. Prescott has already passed their motion, and I understand that Edwardsburg Cardinal, if they haven't passed it already, are supposed to be passing it today. This is an opportunity where I asked this question of the Digital Service Squad group back in June, if it could be possible for municipalities to partner up and essentially stretch their dollars to make them go farther. See, with a smaller rural township like ours, in terms of the number of businesses, given the allocation is $250 per business for us to be able to then use those funds to be able to go out and let's say hire a part-time individual for perhaps a month or a month and a half or something like that may not be as attractive as a proposition as with Prescott and Edwardsburg Cardinal and us partnering together, because when we combine the number of our businesses at a $250 allocation per business, then we're actually able to come up with a pretty attractive deal, just shy of $20 an hour for a 20-week opportunity for someone that understands websites and digital commerce and social media and e-business and photography and online promotion to be able to reach out to businesses across our 3 municipalities. We would make the best use of one individual that can travel across, and another benefit too is the time management. So Prescott has some infrastructure set up as far as being able to easily get a Zoom account going, and they've already looked into their HR process. So they seem willing to take the lead on managing this process because of the 3 municipalities. They're the largest, so the more of their businesses should be able to benefit from this than just ours. But the real benefit of this is not out of the initial $250 that the municipalities are eligible for. It's the $2,500 that each respective business is able to then go and apply for a digital transformation grant to then allow them to, for example, upgrade their website or enhance their e-commerce potential by purchasing better web hosting, or by purchasing new printers, or by buying software such as Adobe Photoshop and Adobe Creative Suite or desktop publishing software. Cameras, for example, may be eligible. So the $250 is really kind of a gateway, and we would like to encourage the person that does end up being hired as the digital service squad team member to essentially tell the businesses about this 2,500, tell them what's available, give them some initial guidance on what they may be able to apply for themselves, and that we will end up creating a much bigger benefit across our communities. We did consider United Counties option, and in fact, Ann Weir, who is the economic development manager from the counties, had brought the different parties together after our initial conversation back in June. We had a couple of meetings, maybe 3 meetings, about this counties wide, exploring the idea of partnership. And the issue that would come up is if there were 1 or 2 or 3 individuals hired across all of the counties, the travel time would end up being a significant challenge and could end up eating up quite a bit of their time and costing quite a bit in gas funds. Whereas if there's someone hired that, let's say, is based in Prescott, they can travel quite reasonably and quite quickly to different business owners and to meet with them in Augusta and Prescott and Edwardsburg Cardinal. My suggestion would be this is a real benefit for our 3 communities together.
And just to follow up on that more specifically, Edwardsburg Cardinal confirmed their participation last week, or 10th, and have provided the letter. So they're on board too.
I'm really pleased to hear that, because if you listen to me, really is going to come September working together. I think being at the end of the 416 and the pathway to the West and the open again, Toronto and Montreal puts us in a really strong position. So I'm really pleased that all 3 are on board. I think a couple of efforts really weren't fully successful in partnerships. Were just hiccups and so the specific things. So I thank you for your initiative on that, and I think it's a great idea. That's all my questions. So I'm going to call a question on this motion. All in favor of the motion? Right, motion carried. So we'll see if we're going for performance today. We have motion 13D. That is moved by Deputy Mayor Shaver, seconded by Councilor Bowman. Motion reads, be it resolved. The Township of Augusta approved bylaw 8489/2020 to rezone the lands municipally known as 1686 County Road 2 from village residential to village residential / special exception zone 2, in brackets RB/X2 and dash X2, and close parentheses, to allow for the redevelopment of the dwellings. It includes 10 attached garages, 10 detached garages in 334.5 square meters and 223 square meter groupings of 55.75 square meters. Successful graduates per unit. I know I'm hacking this up again. So, a 111.5 cubic meter clubhouse building and a 6 visitor parking spaces. And second, that the survey be registered on title. Now, maybe you want to unpack that a little bit because, and I'm just going to say here, it's not a criticism. I know that to staff that we're trying to say this as simply as possible, but I would ask you to read it and yourself to see if it flows because if there's not a clear delineation, when you're sitting up front here, you start mixing up the in parentheses and the groupings. So I hope I haven't confused you in any way. And if you have, please raise your question and keep them in the answer. Do you wish to, does anybody wish our planner to have a discussion on this, or did you read it and satisfied with your right there? If you have anything that you are pressing to say, council doesn't have any particular questions. All right. All right, I'm going to call a question and ask council. I'll give you the motion. I was just going to say that I was in on the public meeting, and Mr. Thompson pointed out that this is going to be a rental situation that Peter Donner has done. And been very successful in this area. And quite frankly, I think that makes it easier for us as a municipality when it comes to talking with the law. All right. And then moving to a report from Protective Services. Oh, I got an E, sorry. You were missing one. So this is moved by Councilor Bowman, seconded by Deputy Mayor Shaver. Again, along with the resolution, be it resolved that the council of the Township of Augusta adopt bylaw 3471/2020 to designate a community improvement project area for the Township of Augusta and establish all lines within Augusta municipal boundaries as a community improvement project area. That Augusta Township adopt in view Township of Augusta Community Improvement Plan, August 2020, as the municipality's first community improvement plan. CIP, that the Township Planning and Economic Development Specialist and Community Development and Recreation Coordinator be appointed CIP administrators to work with the Treasurer and the Community Development Committee to review CIP grant applications and disperse CIP grant funding. And that the Community Development Committee be established as the review panel for this purpose of promoting and supporting the implementation of the CIP. Again, a lot of words, and you had one walking report in your package. Are there any questions that council wants to pose? In terms of it, again, a long report. It was not difficult to read, except it was all. Do you wish to say anything else to the question? I don't want to prolong this.
Same here, unless there are specific questions. No, I think the report very much speaks for itself, and we're relying on our planner's professional guidance.
And again, job well done. Did you have something?
Through the chair, one very, very quick point on the CIP on the last page there under facade and exterior improvement grant. Apologies, just there's a right bracket just very slightly in the wrong place. It should have gone at just before the next comma there. This is really just to be able to, for us to be able to implement the Main Street Revitalization Initiative grant, which is the disbursement of those matching funds. And what it says in the report is it's a matching grant up to 50%, $5,000 maximum, that closed bracket should be moved just a little bit farther down so that it would say 50%, which is essentially $5,000 maximum on a project valued at $10,000 or more. But an applicant, a local business could apply for, let's say, $4,000. If they applied for 4, they wouldn't get 5. If they applied for 2, they wouldn't get 5. They would get 1 on 1, which would be half of 2, or they would get 2, which would be half of 4. So my apologies, that bracket should have been moved. But other than that, happy to answer questions if there are any.
Just an observation for council, at counties, we do review the changes to official plans that various communities are making. And I've noted that with the Township meeting, and I believe one other, and I can't remember if it was Cardinal, but I remember a comment saying that we should have a CIP for all of the townships. It just provides us with some opportunities that we can take advantage of. And the previous discussions of council, I go back to when Rebecca was looking with communities for how to create some enhancement, but we didn't have the CIP benefits that were there. So now we're going to have them. And so for the chair of our CIP committee, I think that adds some extra opportunities for your work. And it's a good thing. If there's no question or comment, I'm going to call a question. All in favor of the motion? And okay. And then on to K, which is return to regular council. I have a motion by Councilor Bowman, seconded by Councilor Chapman. Be it resolved, the council move to a regular meeting of council. Any questions, comments? All in favor? Carried. L, which is new and unfinished business. Does anybody have any new and unfinished business that they wish to raise? From the staffing corner. Is there anything, or was this separate?
You just taking your time. We saw you moving.
We saw you having communication, so we wondered if it was something you wanted to do.
I thought that was choking, so I wanted to. Your worship.
All right, we're on to M, which is notice of motion. Does anybody have a notice of motion? And then we have bylaws 3479 and 3489. So first I have a motion made by Councilor Chapman, seconded by Councilor Bowman. Motion reads, be it resolved that bylaw number 3479/2020 being a bylaw to designate a community improvement project area for the Township of Augusta. You the first time, second time, third time, and enacted as well. We'll call a question to it on favor. Okay. Second is moved by Councilor Bowman, seconded by Councilor Chapman. Motion reads, be it resolved that bylaw 3489/2020 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2965 be read the first time, second time, a third time, and enacted as well. Any further discussion on this? Call the question in favor of the motion. Any oppositions? Okay. So I move to announcements. Does anybody have any announcements? And then the purpose to make sure I have one. And it reads the rabies clinic as per council.
Oh,
Terrible.
I was gonna do it this year too, so next year somebody else will
Cancel
start.
rabies.
Well,
So
the
there's no
health
reason.
Yeah, there will be no rabies.
The health unit goes back and forth a lot, so they might come back. Well, nope, that you put.
Well, I already had said a long time ago I was gonna do this year, but if it's already been canceled, there's nothing I can do.
Okay.
Any,
Anybody else? Last call for, I'm going to move to the question period for request. Do we have anybody? In Lowry, I see a circle for WL. Are you there, Wayne?
Wayne, are you still online? And did you have any questions of council?
I'm still here, but I can barely hear, so I'll have to wait till I can listen to the tape. Thanks.
All right, thank you then. this is all if you have clarification. Okay, we're on to then Q question period for the public. I don't know online if we have a member of the public here.
It's all up to you, Jonas.
Your worship.
Oh my God.
Just a question, this is a question to our clerk. I'm looking at that, it says meeting chat, okay, and I know we talked about electronic meetings. So therefore, the attendees are listening to what we're saying back and forth. But I cannot see or know what they're chatting about, and they posted that as public. So I think by rights, I should have privy to what they're saying if they posted
So
that.
you mean you can't read it?
I
What's
can't
there?
read it, no.
Oh,
So it's only showing right now, there shows like there's posts ahead, but we can only see Wayne Lowry at 6:41 posted and then that test at 6:42, but they're obviously were.
I'd like to know
Yeah,
what
you're
they're
right.
saying,
Sure.
because it is an open meeting, and they're posting comments. So where is that, and I apologize if I haven't read that, but I don't remember reading meeting chats. Now, if they wanted to privately talk to each other, they can do that, it won't be posted up there. But they posted it publicly. So,
Through your worship, I'll speak to that. So that's also recorded. I am recording this whole meeting and I'll forward it to who anybody needs it and we'll post it. The meeting chat section is also recorded in print. And essentially the discussion there is I'm on, but I can't hear very well. And another lady just saying I can speak to one of the issues. She's a planner on behalf of Rob Thompson's group. But other than that, no business was being carried on.
but my question is, shouldn't we hear about that now, at this time? Questions from the public, or at least comments from the public? I'm just trying to get procedure here, because I don't want to hear about it after.
Okay, so there are administrative questions that are going on in the background, similar to us talking about whether the air conditioning is working or not. So I don't think council needs to know them. If there was a question to council that they wanted to ask through that, I agree.
I don't
Then
consider
I
it the
should,
same- I don't
I should
consider it the
provide
same
it.
thing. No, I consider that public, that's there, I just don't see what they're there.
You want to get in? Go ahead.
Your worship, well, I know I've been on a number of Zoom, Teams, board meetings. I'm not pretty sure, but there may be a way to stop chat and open it up at a certain time,
sure.
right? If that's,
Yes.
That's fair, because when we're having a
think-
meeting,
I think,
Well, it gets back to questions from the public.
Yeah.
That's the public,
or comments.
or the attendees, right? Some of them are.
Yep.
Well, it just declared it's a question.
because I do know I've taken some courses at Humber online and we used a very similar app. And the instructor, the professor would stop any comments until a certain time. And then would open them up. Does anybody have any comments? And then would open them up so that, we didn't have to answer questions during the time he was teaching.
Or we were having our
Yeah.
meeting and then just like we normally do at the very end.
Yeah, I think there might be a way. It might be something to talk with.
Or even if we say, okay, is there any questions from the public? And somebody go through that, and there's no questions from the public on the meeting chat. Period.
A compromise might be just that we ask Mr. Morrison. As soon as it pops up, put up your hand and say you've got a chat.
This is something new, I realize.
Yeah. I'm glad you're.
So your worship, if we could then address it ad hoc today, I'll go back and read them just so the council is comfortable that they, so this will be in the recording, but, so Mr. Lowry, well, we'll go right to the start of the meeting. I can't hear. So I say, I may have to email you the recording after the fact. Had the mic turned up to the maximum, but it is not picking up the mayor's voice. Stay tuned. The rest of that message would be, that's a little better. So you were speaking a little louder. Okay, I heard you typing on the keyboard quite well. Voices though are garbled. So no question at this point. And then test skills, Chris. Thanks, Ray. I'm a planner with IBI Group and am available for any questions relating to the zoning bylaw application for Augusta Landing. And those were all, the last one was at 6:42, so at the very beginning of the meeting. And then I was monitoring if someone had said, I would like to ask a question related to X, I would ask through the chair to present that question. Is that?
Yeah, there is some blue. There is any questions, I didn't want to miss that.
Well, we're looking to Mr. Morrison to solve this. I can tell you that I had the same situation here, and I had a mic that went straight to my computer, and I had a mic from every table that was present, and so the computer was picking up everybody's voice. So just as chair, you had to make certain people weren't speaking over each other, which they normally didn't do. And so we can look at that as a really cheap. I can bring it the next time, or I can bring it at an off meeting and try it if you want to. But we really need to solve this because most municipalities are saying that in terms of the monies that we're receiving from the province to address COVID issues, that we may have to continue with these Zoom and Teams meetings, and we really owe it to the public to be putting out a strong signal, whatever that means. So it's
or even for ourselves, if we go back to where we were at the beginning, I struggled every time. I couldn't join the video. Having you guys on video froze my whole thing up half the time. I was coming back at voting times and I was able to keep up luckily with my agenda, but it makes it very hard even for myself. And I couldn't always hear either. So again, if we do have to, for whatever reason, hopefully not, go back to that, I'm not able to participate. I can't hear, so.
So through your worship, I hope to have the mic system available for tonight. It hasn't come through. I'll keep working with Brock IT on that. I am also comparing notes with Prescott, who has a mic system similar to what you see at the county, and they're replacing it because it's doesn't have the clarity that they're after for these Teams meetings. It's different between recording the meeting. That's why I'm comfortable the recording will pick up your voices and getting it to the people at the other ends of the phone. So we will continue to research that. Hopefully we will have a test one for the next council meeting.
Great. Thank you for raising that. We're on to R, then the closed session, and we have one. With regard to personal matters about identifiable individuals, specifically committee member selection. I have a motion that is moved by Councillor Bowman, seconded by Councillor Chapel-Holman. Be it resolved that this council move into a closed meeting at.
Can we have a short recess before we continue?
We'll take the recess and I'll move us into closed then.
Right. That's why I was doing before you put the time because.
All right. So let's take 5 minutes.
That's perfect.
7.
I'm good with any amount, whatever you'll give us.
Depends who gets to the washroom first.
7
Oh,
minutes.
I'm closer and I'm quicker. I got it.
All right, 7 minute recess, and then we're going to go to closed session.
I'm turning the around.
Yes.
What was the problem over there, you two? One's turning it up, you're turning it down, he's turning it up.
My apologies for a little bit of interruption. I thought that was joking. I'm like, you okay? So other than that, I don't interrupt you.
Yeah.
Mayor, I can think about on a side note with your word recess.
Yeah.
I think remind that procedural is
Okay.
public can't talk at any time.
Sure.
Right?
Okay, if you want to do that. But the,
Right? But have a question.
I thought they might want to say something.
All right, no,
when
just
they
if
come
you
in.
want to, I didn't know whether you.
Yeah. So we're
You're making a good
we're
point.
close
We
back
got
to the
in
mics.
COVID time,
Yeah, yeah,
so-
all right.
And
Have a
if
good
we
night.
have.
All right, take care, thanks.
And access, and if it's not getting access, we need to know.
Sure, but people can't yell. They can't, they're
Right.
And I think if
I thought you said they could, I was like.
we, no, I don't think. Mayor, like, and
Yeah,
please,
yeah,
I think you need.
yeah, no, I meant in terms of we can't hear you. I mean, normally, a member of council would have, to be able to say, point of order, we're not, I can't hear you. Member of the public, we have no feedback whatsoever, whether they're doing a darn thing. And I think we owe it a little bit, if we got a message that said, you're suffering a technical issue with none of it doing anything. That may be sufficient to cause a recess to say, it's not an invitation to chat to suddenly become part of the discussion. Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's good.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, later.
Certainly.
I want to go back on to record the,
She's still,
yeah, that's fine. I still want to go back on after we finished our closed meeting.
I misunderstood. I thought,
We can leave it up, as long as nobody can hear.